Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope you're all fit and healthy, taking all precautions from the virus. Welcome back to English with Aisha Siddiqui. I'm doing this lecture on special English for the second year BA students and also universally anyone who wants to learn poetry and is doing experts or specialization in poetry. So, in special English, if you all have gone through the book, I would like to show you all the book again. This book wherein the starting few pages are an introduction on the poetry and later on the poetry starts. So do not skip the introduction, that is the theory of poetry. I've already completed what is poetry, why it is required, the purpose of poetry in my previous videos, and the elements of poetry is very important. Also, figures of speech used in poetries. For the ones who have not seen all this and really need to learn it, you all can go back to my videos and see all these topics that are required. They are very important as not only questions regarding poetries and poets will come, but also it will come what are the things required to write a poetry. So today we'll be doing a new topic. We have finished figure of speech and we will be going to the various types of poetries. There are a large number of poetries written in different types and categories also. So today we'll be doing what are the different types of poetries required. Okay. So you all can see here the types of poetries. I will first name out all the types of poetries and then we will move forward in full description about each and every poetry. The first one is sonnet. Now, you all must have done many sonnets, right? Mostly it is of William Shakespeare. In the first year, I have also put out videos of first year BA students for optional English, wherein Sonnet 29 is given of William Shakespeare. The ones who want to learn about it, please go back to the channel and see William Shakespeare's Sonnet 29. It's really interesting. Okay, now first we'll learn what is sonnet. Also, examples of sonnet we'll see then villanelle, haiku, limerick, ode, epic, poetry, elegy, ballad, free verse, epitaph. These are the different types of poetries. Let's move forward. Sonnet. What do you mean by sonnet? The word sonnet is derived from the Italian word sonetto. Now, you all must have heard Italian language, right? It is superb. It sounds so good. So, anyone who's learned Italian will also know the meaning of it. But for the ones who just hear it, I feel even hearing it is so amazing. So, sonetto. What do you mean by sonetto? It means a small or little song or lyric. Now, sonnet means a little song or a little lyrics given. Now, in poetry, a sonnet has 14 lines. There are many different types of sonnets also, but in poetry, as we're doing poetry here in special English, sonnet has 14 lines. It is a small little song of 14 lines. Each line has 10 syllables. Please note it down as these things are really important and this can come in your exam. So, how many lines a sonnet is, how many syllables each line has, then what is the rhyme scheme? It has a specific rhyme scheme, we will see later. Generally, sonnets are divided into different groups based on the rhyme scheme they follow. The rhymes of a sonnet are arranged according to a certain rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme in English is usually a B A B, C D C D, E F E F G G. So mostly in English, this is the rhyme scheme, but sonnet is mostly divided into different groups depending on the rhyme scheme. Let's move forward to the second type of poetry, that is villanelle. It is defined as a poetic device which requires a poem of 19 lines in a fixed form. Now, here you can see sonnet had 14 lines, Vinanil has 19 lines. Please note all these differences as it can also come differentiate between sonnet, villanelle, or different types of poetries. Now, here it has five tercets. First 15 lines, first 15 lines, a quatrain is last four lines, and a couplet at the end of the quatrain. So this is the way a villanelle is actually formed. Now, if you all do not know the words tercets, quatrain, couple, all of this, you'll have to see my previous videos wherein we have done elements of poetry. In the elements of poetry, measurement of lines of the poetries and stanzas are given. Measurement does not actually mean to take a tape and measure, but there are different elements of measurement: foot, meter, lines. In that, you can see couplet, quatrain, triplet, and all. You will understand it. Please go back and see elements of poetry, you all will understand. Let's move forward. What is haiku? Now, here, a haiku poem has three lines, where the first and last line has five morals, while the middle line has seven. Note it down, everyone, please. The pattern in Japanese gen is 575. The mora is another name of a sound unit, which is like a syllable, but it is different from a syllable. It's not just very exactly like a syllable, a little different from syllable, as the moras cannot be translated into English. So it is always in the specific language that it is written. They are modified and syllables are used instead. When it is the modified form, it is known as a syllable. The lines of such poems rarely rhyme with each other. So mostly poems actually rhyme, but in haiku, poems do not rhyme so much. Mostly all the words are differently written, and it is of three lines. You see that only three lines. You see, sonnet was of 14, then we went to villanelle 19. Haiku is of three lines. First and last lines have five morals. Now let's see an example. Old pond, a frog jumps, the sound of water. Do you see that? So short. Haiku is the shortest type of poetry is written. Just like 3 to 4 words, put it down and a poetry is done. It is little not arranged so systematically, and that is the form of haiku, that not to be arranged systematically. Let's see what's an ode. Ode is a literary technique that is lyrical in nature. What do you mean by lyrical? I mean the words written out in poetry, but not very lengthy. You have often read odes in which poets praise people or praise natural scenes, abstract ideas. It is highly solemn and serious in its tone and subject matter, and usually is used with elaborate patterns of stanzas. However, the tone is often formal. Now, it is mostly formal because you are actually praising someone, praising natural scenes, how beautiful this is, how beautiful the person is. So, mostly it is in a very formal tone that you are appreciating or actually praising someone. So, ode is to praise someone in short. For example, row after row with strict impunity, the headstones yield the names to the element. The winds whirs without recollection. In the river throws the splayed leaves. Pile up of nature the casual sarcasm to the seasonal eternity of death. It's a very serious tone. Just remember, even though there is praising or just describing something over here in this poem, but it has a serious tone. What is an epic? It is a form of poem often written in blank verse, lengthy in size, in which poet shows protagonist in action of historical significance or great myth, mythology. That means mostly about history is written. Epic, the word itself tells you epic is something historic, like epic things that is put into museum and all, something that is very unique and cannot be repeated. History cannot repeat, right? Of course it can be repeated in a very different sense, but the same incident cannot happen again. So epic is known as that. So with the word itself you can know that it is very lengthy, and the people who have studied history and has a subject history will also know that history is vast, right? So history is very lengthy, and therefore epic poetries are also very lengthy in size, and the poet actually shows a lot of action of history in it. Let's see what is elegy. Now these are all types of poetries, okay? So you all can write the names down if you need. uh, a melancholic poem in which poet laments the death of a subject, however consoles towards the end, is called elegy. Now, very serious. What is an elegy? It is actually a death scene, you can say. A very sad poetry in which someone is dying, and towards the end of it you are actually consoling someone. Like suppose a parent or a father of someone is dying out of some problem, and in the end you're talking to the kid of that father, right? So that's called elegy. So, country churchyard, you can see here. This is an example of elegy. You all can read this and understand what is elegy and how it is so seriously written, because it actually laminates death. It's a death scene, you can say. Okay, epitaph. What do you mean by epitaph? A small poem used as an inscription on tombstone of a dead person. Now, it can be a small description also, like if you want to describe yourself on your resume as well, it can be like in a poetic form as well. Not necessarily it has to be on a death. Yes, mostly in maximum times, epitaph is used on a dead person's grave. That's a tombstone. To just put down some lines to describe that person or that relates to that person. But nowadays, epitaph is also put to describe people in very short or 2, 3 lines itself. Let's see an example that is given on the slide. Roses are red, violets are blue. Because I am dead, one love is taboo. You can see that how sweet. So, like these things are described 2 to 3 lines maximum, few lines, not more than that, is put into an epitaph. As an example, you saw this. Even nowadays, normally living people can describe themselves in few lines, like a poem. Let's see what is a free verse. A free verse, it consists of non-rhyming lines. That's why it's known as free. It does not have to be in a proper pattern or lyric, proper specific rhyme should not be there. You can just write it however you want. Free verse it is. So without any metrical pattern, no meter, no measurement, or nothing is there in that poem. You have to just freely bring out your heart, whatever you want, but follows a natural rhythm. But it has to have little bit of connectivity. You can put down whatever words you want, but it has to have little bit of rhythm that you're saying. Means it should not be like you're talking about north, suddenly south, and something is happening, and you don't know where the poetry is going. So it has to have little connectivity in it, and it can be free without any rhymes. Example, come slowly, Eden lips, unused to thee, bashful, sip thy jasmines. As the fainting bee, reaching late his flower, round a chamber hums, counts his nectars alights, and is lost in bounds. Come slowly. You can see that by Dickinson. So here it is a free verse, freely written without any rhyme scheme, any pattern, any meter, any measurement, but its little bit of connectivity is there in it. Let's move forward to ballad. What do you mean by ballad here? It is a type of narrative poem. Now, what is narrative poem and what do you mean by descriptive poems? These all things will be discussed in the next video, that is the different kinds of poetry. This is types of poetries, and the other video will be on the kinds of poetry, that means categories of poetries. Okay, what is a ballad? It is a type of narrative poem, narrates a story, often talks about folks or legendary tales. It may take a form of moral lesson or song. So, what do you mean by ballad? It actually narrates means brings out the qualities of a person, like in a story form, like you're telling a story, but in a poetic form, or like a folk, like a song, a small little song written on someone describing it or narrating it. Like Tamlin is an example of a popular traditional ballad, very popular, very good. You can, if you'll have not, you don't know about it, you can type this Tamlin on Google and see that. Oh, I forbid you, maiden all, that wears gold in your hair, to come or go by cater hog, for young Tamlin is there. So you can see it is describing gold hair, right? So it's describing something like a story, and it mostly describes legendary people, tales, and all. Now let's move forward to limerick. Limerick is the last type of poetry. Limerick is a type of humorous poetry poem with five anapestic lines in which first, second, and fifth lines have 3 feet and third and fourth have 2 feet. Now, this is too much of specifications of the poetry, so you can write it down. It is anapestic. It has five anapestic lines. First, second, and fifth, first, second, and fifth lines have 3 feet, and third and fourth have 2 feet, with a strict rhyme scheme of AA, BBA. Now, limerick, you can see it's a very strict type of poetry, tough to write because you have to complete all these rules. First, first, second, and fifth line has to be of 3 feet, third and fourth has to be of 2 feet. All these rules have to be covered in limerick. Example, there was a young lady of station. I love man was her sole exclamation. But when men cried, you flatter, she replied, oh, no matter. I love man is the true explanation. From a Miss Vera by Lewis Carroll. So you can go through this poetry of Lewis Carroll and you can understand what is a limerick type of poetry here, which has this rhyme scheme. You can see the rhyme scheme in this small little verse that I've stanza that I've given here. AABBA, the rhyme scheme is. Okay. I hope you all understood all the types of poetries. In the coming video, I will also do explain what are the different kinds of poetries. It's very short and you all will understand it definitely, very easy to understand. But in the types of poetries, you need to write the names of it, and each one has to be given description. So better you all write it down, how many lines a sonnet has, how many lines haiku is written. So all these things have to be written down and learned very well. You have to remember and memorize it, because these are specific numbers given to the poetry. They are rules. So I hope you all benefited from the video, and please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you very much, everyone.